Okay, so welcome everyone. We're very glad that you decided to attend WECode, and especially this solo panel. We have with us AJ Rush, currently works on Microsoft Cortana Digital Assistant. She and her team built experiences for Outlook, Team, and in Windows, including the Play My Emails feature in Outlook and Cortana on Teams devices. She previously spent 12 years in Microsoft research. Her research area is human-computer interaction with a focus on ubiquitous computing. She's most well known for her research on technologies for families and her expertise conducting field studies of technology. She co-led MSR's Lab of Things project, an open source platform for experimental research using connected devices in homes and beyond. AJ received an Alumni Achievement Award in 2017 from UW Paul G. Allen School of Computer Science, a Borg Early Career Award in 2010, and has over 25 patents. Her research has received 2 10-year Impact Awards, 3 Best Paper Awards, and several Best Paper nominations. To encourage diversity in computing, she's a board member and former co-chair of CRAWP. And today she's going to be talking to us about the difference between mentors and sponsors, how they have helped her during her career, and how we can build our own set of mentors and sponsors. So I'll leave it to you, AJ.
Awesome. Thank you, Paula. I'm super happy to be here with you. It's a little earlier in my time zone. I'm on the West Coast, so I know you've had already a packed day of exciting talks. I saw that a mentor of mine, Sue, actually, Jume, spoke to you this morning. So we're going to keep this light and fun and interactive, and there will be tons of time for questions. I would say if you don't already have a piece of paper and pen, or I'm super old school, obviously, but your phone or something to write some things down, that would be great, because I will be asking you to think about your mentor and sponsor portfolio as we go through this. And I'm new to our platform, so let's see. So navigating slides could be a good fun time. So let's see. Hopefully that, okay, cool. So as Paula said, I'm AJ Brush. I have a PhD in computer science. These are my kids. They're a little older now than in this picture, but I love this picture because we're all smiling. You are going to get a tour of my career in much greater detail later, where I talk about different mentors and sponsors along the way. But I went to a college that's quite near to you all, Williams College. And then I got my PhD and went to Microsoft. So we will talk about that. I do have some hobbies and other good stuff like that. Okay. So I'm here with my Microsoft hat on, but I actually give this talk often on behalf of the CRAWP, which is a group that I think I would like you all to know about too, because we do large-scale mentoring programs, particularly undergrad research experiences. So if you don't know CRAWP, or you don't know about the undergrad research thing, look that up on your spare time. And actually, this talk grew out of work at one of our research conferences. All right, let's get to the meat. This is the core message. And I'm really passionate about this, and you'll see later. Women and underrepresented minorities are traditionally over-mentored and under-sponsored. That doesn't mean we shouldn't have mentors. We absolutely should have mentors, but we should also be thinking about sponsorship. And here's the core difference. If you have a mentor, they advise you, they talk to you, they're a safe person to go to and say, like, this is not going the way I thought it was going, like, help, I need help. A sponsor, you'll find, they're going to advocate for you. A sponsor is going to have power in some way. They're going to be further along in their career. They're going to be able to open doors for you. They are going to talk about you more than they might talk to you. Now, it's confusing because sometimes they're the same people, and often early in our careers, they are absolutely the same people. But I want you to keep those two concepts in your head, because you might have mentors who are amazing, but not necessarily sponsors. You might have sponsors who are amazing, but aren't necessarily the mentor you go to when, like, I don't know, the toilet's overflowing or whatever is going wrong, and you need some help. So they can be very different people, and they can be the same person. So let's dig in for a second on this. A mentor has mentees, sponsors have proteges, which just sounds super fancy. Like, who would want to be a protege of someone, right? Like, that's cool. Again, mentors, you're really focused on formal, informal discussions. Hey, do you think I should go take that class, or should I learn that skill? Or I'm thinking about these 2 opportunities, giving me your thoughts, or even they're asking you questions to pull things out. So right now, I hope you have that piece of paper and you're going, oh, like my professor X is a mentor, or my friend X is a mentor. Peer mentoring, huge thing, huge fan of peer mentoring. I'm a mentor for so-and-so who might be like a little more junior at the school or whatever. start thinking about your mentor and sponsor portfolio again. So lots of things that you do in a mentor conversation. Again, sponsors. Sponsors are going to go out and they're going to be in a room where it happens, where someone says, hey, we need someone to lead the FOO about whatever. And you go, oh my gosh, Paula would be amazing at that. Or AJ, we should really get AJ to do that, right? So they're going to talk about you. Again, often for undergrads, same person, right? Your advisor is probably both your mentor and your sponsor. So again, it doesn't necessarily have to be two people. I just want you to start thinking that it could be. Okay, and later when you have a job or whatever, they're the people who like get to make the pay and promotion decisions in the company, right? And so you definitely want those people to have a positive impression of you and your work. You have to do good work in order to have that impression, but beyond that, you're growing a sponsor portfolio. Last one, again, a career vision. AJ, do you want to go to grad school? AJ, do you want to, which is things people ask me, AJ, do you want to get a job? AJ, what topic do you want to study in grad school? Those are all amazing mentorship conversations, right? I go, hey, I am passionate about human-computer interaction. I need to find a great place to do human-computer interaction. My advisor goes, oh, Microsoft Research has internships. Let's help you get one of those, right? That's acting as a sponsor. All right, not quite done, but I'm sure you're getting the idea. Again, a mentor might say, hey, AJ, have you talked to so-and-so? You should go talk to so-and-so. A sponsor will be like, I'm sending an email to introduce you to so-and-so and to say, hey, Paula, I really think you should talk to so-and-so about, your work on this thing because I think they would find it quite interesting, right? Again, often the same person, but the difference is between talking to me and getting me excited about growing my network and then actively putting myself out there to sponsor someone and connect them and, take that risk of that introduction. Again, mentors go, hey, there's some cool stuff happening over there. You should go check it out. And sponsors go, I'm going to get you on that committee, or I'm going to make this thing happen for you. Again, a sponsor is using their platforms and reputation to promote you. Mentors are amazing. They're like, well, yeah, the rules say this, but the person you really need to talk to is so-and-so, or this is how you get, I don't know, money to do X, Y, and Z. This is how the organization works, right? And then again, a sponsor will be like, I'm signing you up for this, or I got you on that committee, or I opened this door for you. Okay. And don't worry, you're going to have both of these. Again, it's different roles, right? Mentors, I don't want you to walk out of this talk. I would be a total fail if you walked out and you're like, I don't want sponsors. No, everyone needs lots of, I'm sorry, I don't want mentors. Everyone needs lots of mentors, peer mentors, all sorts of mentors. But I do want you to walk out and go, I need to think about, are my mentors also sponsors? And if they aren't, how can I make them, help them sponsor me? Or how can I think about who should be my sponsors? Okay, great. Again, mentors may not be out there speaking up on your behalf. It's not because they don't like you or they don't want to. It's just kind of not the role we've set those in. Sponsorship is proactive energy on the part of the sponsor and, risk a little bit, right? Again, some mentors are sponsors, but you don't want to bank on that. And we'll talk about how you can detect sort of, is your mentor acting as a sponsor, right? Okay, cool. This is the slide when we started doing this talk several years ago because someone else in CRAWP on the board was super passionate about this topic. When we started doing this, she's like, AJ, this is why, right? Women are over-mentored and under-sponsored relative to your peers. And I was like, oh my gosh, that is disturbing. We got to think about this, right? And this has all sorts of impact, right? We want better pay, we want advancement, the high profile assignments, we want to increase retention, all of those things. Again, if you're, whatever level in undergrad, these are, not maybe your problems of the moment, but there are things to think about as you think about getting internships or choosing your career path after undergrad, or when you're in grad school, or when you're in your first job, right? And so we want to make sure you have a rich portfolio of mentors and sponsors. Again, some people are both. All right, I have whacked that a lot. So I'm going to pause here and take you on a tour of AJ's life in way more depth than you actually need to know, but I'm going to use it to talk about mentors and sponsorship along the way. So I started out, I grew up in California. I'm actually literally sitting in my parents' house right now in my sister's bedroom because I came down to visit for the school holiday. So I am here. It is very sunny. Paula was watching me adjust the blinds and everything to get the lighting, right? Okay, so then I decided to go to Williams College. I fell in love with it when I visited, and I absolutely wanted to go there. And it was way snowier, and the winters lasted a long time, but it was amazing. And while I was there, I started studying computer science, which I'd only really dabbled in before. And then I found this program, CRAWP. You'll see it all connects. And I did summer research at the University of Oregon. So I flew to Oregon and spent the summer there. It's now called the Drew program. And this was my first taste of research. This was my first taste. I was a sophomore summer, right? And I'm there. It was super sunny. We spent every weekend hiking in the mountains because that's what I love to do. But we spent a lot of time writing a debugger for parallel computing and going, this is what research is like. This is what a professor's life was there. And one of my very first, both mentor and sponsors, Dr. Jan Cooney, who is a lifelong mentor and sponsor, was my advisor for this program. She then later wrote a letter that I'm sure helped me get into graduate school. I'm sure helped me get an NSF fellowship. Like all of these things came from going on this program and developing a relationship with Jan. So first, I mean, I have, and then we'll talk about my mentors back at Williams as well, right? Okay, so I returned to Williams. It was still very cloudy and snowy in the winter, but that's okay. And I had great mentors and sponsors there, right? So I had professors, my advisor, also writing letters for me, also helping me think about, did I want to do a senior thesis? Did I want to do internships? I did internships, helping me kind of sort through, like, I have never been one of those people who like knew perfectly what I wanted to do with my life. I know there are people like that out there. Part of this like infographic that I built like 6 years ago will also help you realize, like, you know, it's okay if you don't know exactly what you want to do right now. That's the role of mentors and sponsors, to help you gather information. Okay, so I was then doing parallel computing again because I really liked it. And I did a thesis and I learned more and I thought more and I thought, you know, do I want to go into investment banking? Do I want to do all these other things? You know what? The thing I want to do right now is I want to go to graduate school. So again, my advisor there, lots of professors I talked to, lots of my peers were going through the same questions of what do we want to do after school. All of those were great conversations, some more mentoring, some more sponsoring, because I'm going, will you write me a letter to help me try to do this application and all of those things. I came to graduate school in Seattle. It does rain a lot here. Well, now I'm not here, but virtually there. I live up there now still. But don't worry, we say that so people won't come because it's beautiful in the summer. And I was still focused on parallel computing and graphics. Great advisor here. Lots of, you're going to keep hearing the words peer mentoring from me because I've always relied on an incredibly strong peer mentoring, and then people who are like one step ahead of me because I can never quite be sure what my next step is. So I'm always trying to find people who maybe have the next thing I think I might want to do and learn from them, right? The people who are in grad school, the people who are working in industry, at graduate school, the people who are like 2 or 3 years ahead of me, right? I'm always like trying to understand that from peers or slightly further along peers. I got married to my husband, who I met in college. He was actually in St. Louis going to medical school. So we thought we should live together. So I took a year off of grad school after my master's. I moved to St. Louis. I worked as a programmer. This was a great chance for me to say, well, do I really love that PhD thing? Do I really love research? Let me just go work at the startup and see how it is, right? I could take a year off from grad school. If I fall in love with working at the startup, I don't have to go back to grad school. If I don't love it, I have a ticket back. So I'm a big, like, keep my doors open kind of person. Oh my gosh, the weather, if any of you are from St. Louis or the Midwest, was just like, it blew my mind. Hail the size of golf balls, ice, everything. Really interesting. Played a lot of ultimate frisbee, drove all over the Midwest. It was a great time. Here's where I found the thing that I still study today, which is human-computer interaction. They asked me to write a print dialogue. I'm like, I think people have thought about that before. So I went and started reading like research proceedings in my spare time from the HCI conferences. And I'm like, I have really found what I want to spend, you know, the rest of my life working on from a work perspective. So this was amazing, right? You might think it's a detour, but again, there I had great people who I was working with who could help me understand what my career path would look like here. I was still in touch with my advisor from UW and still thinking about it. So I found HCI. I returned to grad school. Ironically, there were not that many people doing HCI at UW at the time. Now it is like a powerhouse in that thing. So I finished my PhD. They connected me with internships at Microsoft. I then did a postdoc because I wasn't sure if I wanted to be a professor or I wanted to be in research, right? This is a continuing theme for AJ, like always like weighing different options and trying different things. Lots of people helped me through that. That decision is maybe not over, right? Like someday I might still be a professor. Yep, it was still raining. And then I joined Microsoft Research in 2004 formally. I had interned a bunch there. And then I moved over to the product group in 2016, which seems like just yesterday, but I guess is a while ago now. And again, lots of mentors and sponsors through the way of that, helping me understand what things would look like if I kept in the research org, what things would look like if I went to the product org, how I could flow and bridge between those. Okay, I'm going to pause because that was a lot. Definitely hope you got the sense from that journey that there are different mentors and sponsors along the way. You're going to have different mentors and sponsors throughout your career path. And now we're going to actually go to like the pragmatics of like, how do I get a sponsor and what do I do and who should I think about? And then I hope that you are queuing up your questions. You can put them in chat, no problem, or however Paula wants to grab those. Okay. And I'm just imagining you all out there frantically writing down, well, maybe not frantically, but writing down the names of people who are your mentors and thinking about kind of the sponsor portfolio that might be appropriate for your stage of life. Okay, so, and some of this might sound a little scary. I'm sorry, it's not meant to be scary, so don't get scared. But like, you do want to choose your potential sponsors wisely, right? If you have a sponsor who no one listens to and is sort of like out on their own and you're like, they don't have the influence that you're looking for, then like, that's not going to help. So you want to think about the people in your network, right? And this is maybe more to tuck away in your first job or at grad school, but probably you can see this at school too, right? Who speaks up? Who has the ability to just change the direction of conversation, which means other people listen to them. Their opinion actually matters. And who won't hesitate to be like, I'm not sure we're doing the right thing. So-and-so, like, let's try that. So you want to think about who's basically effective at getting things done. We put this in because sometimes it's not like we want you to get any sponsor. like you want to be thoughtful about your sponsorship. Okay. So here now we're back to our pen and paper situation, questions to ask yourself. Okay, what can the sponsor offer me? Now, you may be in the, I'm going to need a recommendation for the job or the internship, or I want to list them, I'm going to go to grad school or apply to grad school or apply to a fellowship or apply for funding. So think about what are your sponsorship needs in a way. This is maybe targeted a little bit more at the internal industry people who, pay promotion, but, who makes the TA recommendations? Maybe you want to be a TA, like who's on that committee, right? So think about the world that you live in and who is doing what. And then what senior leader has the network or platform, right? Let's say you're studying, I don't know, AI, HCI, whatever, theory. And you're like, I'm thinking about that area. Okay, well, getting to know the professors in that area is going to be important, right? Because they're the ones who are going to have the network who can help you get a relative, a related internship or a next step. Now, I think everyone thinks of sponsorship as like a one-way street and like, why would anyone want to sponsor anyone? They're just like putting themselves out there for me and like what? It's actually not true. Like most of the reason people like myself or people are professors is like, they would like to see people succeed. Like that is their job in some sense, right? Is talking to students, getting them excited, helping them find the career that's going to be fulfilling. And so, if your professor lands you a great internship, even if it tells you, that area isn't for me, like that's good data, right? That is valuable to them. They're like, wow, I had, 27 successful students who found what they want to do in life, right? So there is stuff in it for the quote, quote, senior leader or professor or anything. So like, I want you to feel like, oh yeah, I'm actually giving back too, right? I'm helping them fulfill their mission of education. Okay, so everyone is like, hey, so I just walk up to someone and I'm like, sponsor me, please. It does not work like that. That is a super awkward conversation. They're like, I've never met you. I don't know you. Why the heck are you showing up in my office and being like, be my sponsor? The things you want to do, and this is why so many mentors grow into sponsors, right? You want to rinse and repeat. You want to have a research, an education, a business focus, like about the project you just did, about something that's like in your area. You want to ask them for advice. You want to take it. That doesn't mean if they give you bad advice or advice you don't agree with, you just have to like jump off whatever. But hey, I thought about your advice and you suggested A and B and I went and tried B. Thank you. This is how it turned out for me. Like that is being respectful to the fact that they offered some advice and you acted on it. And then you follow up and you just kind of do this. And then shortly, like I know more about what Paula wants to do in her life. So I can be thinking, oh, what should I do to get Paula whatever? Or like, oh, that internship, some random person I know just asked me, do I know great people who want an internship? Oh, Paula, this would be a great fit for Paula, right? So you're basically, it takes time because it's not like you're going to walk into my office and be like, hey, sponsor me. And I'm be like, I've never met you. I don't know anything about you. We got to develop that relationship. And then like, it's going to take time before it's intern season or someone pings me or whatever, right? So you want to be thinking now about like, oh, like I'd like to have a relationship, not like I'm having coffee every 15 minutes with you relationship, but like a relationship where AJ, Professor X, whomever knows my hopes and dreams and can kind of be looking out for me. Okay. Again, don't worry. This is not an overnight thing. The other thing I make a big point of in this talk is you can be a sponsor too. Like think of acts of sponsorship, not like I'm a sponsor, and now I'm sponsoring you for 10 years, right? There are minor things you can do that are sponsorship asks. So when someone asks you to do something, you might say, oh, I'm super busy, but sorry, Paula, I'm going to keep picking on you, but or promoting. Actually, I have names of people in chat. I might say, oh, I'm super busy, but Michelle would be great at that. And they go, oh, I'll talk to Michelle. And now Michelle gets to, give the talk or be on the V team or whatever. So you can, but to do this, and the reason it's great is you realize when you do this act of sponsorship, you have to know enough about Nadine or, I'm going to massacre your names. I'm so sorry. Cameron. I have to know enough about you, so sorry, that I can sponsor you. I have to know your hopes and dreams, right? Not like your 10-year hope and dream, but like what you like to talk about, what you like to do in order to know that, right? So doing acts of sponsorship actually help you be more sponsor ready yourself. Because essentially we're trying to get you sponsor ready, right? Oh, I know who I kind of want sponsors. I'm starting these relationships. Again, they can often start as mentoring relationships and then grow. So please, there are undergrads who are more junior than you. I am confident there are peers who might be similar, but working in a different area. Like you can be thinking about acts of sponsorship. And for me, often it's like, oh, it's like a total win-win, right? Like I didn't have time to do thing X, but I recommended Kavea, and she was amazing. So now I look awesome to the person who asked me because I recommended a super amazing person. Kavea got like a great opportunity and I don't have to feel guilty about saying no. It's like, woo, we're like, party poppers all over the place. It's just awesome. So think about, as soon as you start noticing this, like you'll see these opportunities everywhere. Okay. So this is really too important. The only thing I want you to take away is that you have to be a little thoughtful, right? It's not like you just like cruise through life and then all of a sudden you wake up. I mean, maybe you will because you're all fabulous and all of those things, right? But you can put a little thought into it, a little strategery, as I like to call it, and think about, oh, I've got these great mentors. Some of them are also sponsors. I've got these people over here that I would like to sponsor me, but frankly, they don't have time to mentor me. Mentoring typically takes more time, right? Than someone knowing that you're amazing at foo and being ready to recommend you. You can do that a little more lightweight, although they still have to know enough about you. So it does start with taking steps to build your network and find your sponsors. I think I have, yes. Okay. So I made it through pretty fast, but that was my goal because it's actually way more fun for you all to ask your questions and then for us to discuss about them. I can talk forever, it turns out. but that's less fun for everyone usually. All right. So yes, let's put questions however you want to do it. Paula, take it away.
Yeah. Thank you so much, AJ, for that talk. It was very exciting and very eye-opening. To be honest, I wasn't really aware of the difference between sponsors and mentors, and now I realized that they are quite different, and I need to start taking steps to get mine. So thank you very much for that. And yeah, we got a lot of great questions, so I think I might just go ahead and read them.
Yeah.
We'll start with, who do you believe has been your greatest mentor and your greatest sponsor, and how are they different?
Oh, that's a really good question. So I would love for folks to think of this as a career trajectory. So at different times, and I've had different mentors and sponsors at different times in my career. And so I could definitely do like the recency bias, like the sponsor who got me my promotion to partner, which is a fairly high level at Microsoft, like that was huge. I couldn't get that myself at that point. I needed someone in the room who was making those big promotion decisions to sponsor me. So most recently, that was the biggest sponsorship of my life, right? Because it got me like to a place I really wanted to get to. But, you know, when I was thinking about, as I mentioned, when I was thinking about grad school, when I was applying for my NSF, like Jan's letter combined with my professors at Williams letters, like that was a big deal, right? So at every step, but now Jan and I go to coffee, right? Like, and it's not like she's in a position where she would be able to sponsor me at Microsoft. She can sponsor me in other things. And she's now more of a mentor, but she was a sponsor before. So I guess the thing to take away there is people will move through phases in your life. So yes, most recently, the sponsor who got me my last promotion, huge. Jan's sponsorship in undergrad was amazing. Oh, mentors. I've had so many amazing mentors. The trip from Microsoft research to product was maybe a little more exciting than I let on, but like it was a 2-year rotation. So Microsoft has this program where if you're in research, you can go for 2 years and work in product with a ticket back. So it's sort of like, hey, it's okay. Like no stress, like go try this other world. And if it's not your fit, come on back. And I went through a lot of debate on whether I was going to go back to research or when and how. And actually at that point, Microsoft had a program where they got me a career coach, like an outside person who I could talk to, right? And that was a big deal then. So again, it depends on your time. For mentorship, mostly my peer mentors. I would be dead without my peer mentorship network, right? Because they're going through the same things I'm going through, or maybe they just went through it a year ago or whatever. So every time I've had a career change or like, you know, gone from undergrad to grad, I have always been searching for a peer network of people to talk to who are roughly in the same situation that I am. Cool. Okay. What's our next one?
Thank you so much. You mentioned that now you go to coffee with Jan, one of your mentors / sponsors. One of the questions we had is, what would you recommend to maintain a relationship with your mentors or sponsors?
Oh, cool. Yeah. So I think sometimes people are like, oh my gosh, like, you know, I got to be sending them flowers every week, or like we need to be meeting, you know, weekly or something. Like it can be. So initially you need a relationship, right? And we have all sorts of more pragmatics that we can go into. But after that relationship is established, it can be pretty lightweight. What I love is when people who are like former interns drop me a note. They're like, I got married, I had a kid, I'm now a professor, wherever. Like, boom, network continued, right? I'm like, oh, I hadn't thought about so-and-so in a long time. I'm so glad they're doing well. Oh, that's great, you know, that they're now a professor wherever. Let's come back. Actually, I just realized I didn't put the slide in about like, we didn't go maybe as deep as I meant to on the mentor thing or the relationship. Like, just like you can't walk in and ask someone for sponsorship like straight out, I would also be thoughtful in how you think about mentorship. Like when someone asks me to be their mentor, it's a lot easier to say yes if they're like, hey, I'd love to have a 30-minute chat with you like for a couple months or something, or I have this particular topic that I would like to learn more about. And so that implies that like I'm not signing up to mentor them 30 minutes a month for the rest of our lives. It implies that we're going to like do some sessions and maybe we'll really hit it off, or maybe we won't, or maybe I'll help them with whatever and then they'll be done. So like I would also be careful, like and make it easy for the person to say no at that moment and not to have it feel like you're taking it personally. Like there are many people I would love to mentor. In fact, Williams just reached out about this amazing undergraduate mentor program. And I was like almost crying when I had to write back and say like, I just got like a huge new assignment. Now is not a good time, right? Like, so understand that when you're going to ask people for mentorship, like sometimes they have to say no, right? So formulate that ask in a way that it seems lightweight, you know, and if they say no, you're like, great, I'll check back in 3 months or whatever. So you might say something like, hey, if now's not a good time, that's totally fine. Would love to, you know, leave the door open to trying it later if you're super busy, right? Like just make the ask like, I'm missing the word, but like not enormous, like they can wrap their hands around it, understand and say no right now. Or like, oh, now's not good, but I'd love to talk to you. Like now at this point, I'm like, look at my calendar. And like in a month, I'd love for you to put 30 minutes on it. But like today is a really bad time, right? So again, I think sometimes I know I would take that personally, like, oh my gosh, they hate me. They don't care about, it's not you. Often it's really not you. It's the situation. Yeah, I was just looking at what Cameron was saying. It is so, you put yourself out there, you ask them to mentor you, they say no, you're like, oh, something must be horribly wrong with you. No, it's really not that. I would say. So cool. Yes.
Yeah, it's very easy to say personally. It probably is not, but thank you so much for that.
I mean, I take it personally too, I'll just say, but then I have to like coach myself. So just a lot of self-talk about how it's not necessarily about you.
Definitely. So yeah, we have now a question from Michelle. Could you share a time when you sponsored someone and what convinced you to sponsor them?
Oh, sure. And again, I want to break down sponsor from like, I know I talked about it like this big thing, and like I have sponsors who've been sponsors for years, but they can be quite small acts. So typically what happens when I sponsor someone is that I start very small, right? So for example, actually, here's a great example. I gave a version of this talk to our women's group in my larger division, a couple hundred people. And the woman who organized it has so much passion around sponsoring and mentorship that she's actually started a sponsorship program within my organization or broader organization. And then people saw me give the talk and they're like, oh, come give this talk. And I'm like, well, that sounds great, but Naomi is amazing. And like, she has so much passion. Like, why don't you have her give the talk? It doesn't need to be me, right? So that's like a micro act. And what convinced me to do it is, one, I had enough interaction with Naomi that I knew she could give the talk and she was amazing and I was willing to help her with it. And she had a lot of passion on the topic and expertise and willingness to put time in. If it's more like, would I write a letter for you, which I get asked all the time? It's typically like, well, were you an intern? Do I have enough expertise to be able to say something about you? That's why that rinse and repeat loop is there. Like, you can't really sponsor someone you don't know anything about, because you're basically, a sponsorship act is saying, trust me and my reputation. I have identified this other person as being, competent, amazing. They're going to do a good job. And so I'm putting my reputation a tiny bit on the risk, right? Because if you then totally muck it up, like, it looks bad for me. And so I have to have enough confidence, basically, that you're going to be able to knock it out of the park through, what I've seen in your work or whatever. That is a thing. Like, if someone recommends you for something and you think you cannot do it because you're super busy with classes or whatever, say no. Like, it is way better to say, no, I'm too busy, than to say yes and do a bad job. If you say yes to something and then you're like, crap, I'm too busy and I can't do this. Like, one, the person who recommended you looks bad. Two, you look bad. So it is way better. Now, it is okay if you get halfway through and you're like, oh my gosh, I totally overcommitted. Just say that to the person and come with a solution like, wow, this is way bigger than I thought. Could we bring in another person to help, right? The worst case, yeah. Anyway, I may be going off on a tangent, but like, it is very important to follow through on the things that you commit to do. And if they've gotten out of hand, to be proactive in your communication about them.
Thank you. That's really important. Thank you so much. We have a question from Divya. How do you get a research internship during undergrad, and any tips for?
Absolutely. So first, go to the CRA WP page and look at the DREU, Distributed Research Experience for Undergrads. It's an application program. They match, you apply, you get matched up. You spend time like I did in Oregon. Like we have on the other side a bunch of professors going, we'd really like to host undergrad for research internships. So that was pretty straightforward because like many of the things I had done in life up to then, there's like an application process and I follow it, and and then they tell me. So absolutely, that is a great way to at least put your name in the hat for research internships with a fairly large number of them. If that, the timing is wrong or that doesn't work, it's a little harder then, I think, because, most internships are not research. We have tons of internships everywhere. Everyone does, right? But I would also say like a traditional product internship is super amazing. And I did a couple of those too, right? Because maybe you know exactly what you want to do in life, and in which case I'm super jealous. I had to do a lot of things to know what I liked. So I advise people to do those as well. Sorry, coming back. So then if you didn't get into the CRAWP or the deadline has passed or whatever, like talking to people at your school, they probably have a really great network. So doing research for a professor at your university, sometimes that's like built into doing an undergrad thesis. So like my junior summer, I was at Williams doing research. You can sometimes do research during the year, right? Depending on what university you're at, they may or may not have grants for research. So starting to talk to whoever your undergraduate advisor is, or the person who taught the class that you absolutely love and you'd like to work in that area, those are all ways to start, right? Hey, just with hey, I'm interested in doing undergraduate research next summer. What advice do you have? Boom. Okay.
Thank you.
And start early. Sorry, one more thing. Start early.
Yeah.
Like, I can't tell you how much it breaks my heart when people write to me in May and they're like, I'd like to get an internship for this summer. And I'm like, wow, okay, let's talk about next year. Because, people start in November and December and January, right? So it's definitely, and I'm saying this to my own son, who's a sophomore in college, go start early. You missed the deadline. So, if it happens, it happens, but just know for the next time you have to start early for summer stuff, which I'm sure you're all way ahead of.
Thank you. Yeah, that was great advice, starting early. I'm gonna take advantage of my moderator position and ask you a question of my own. So you mentioned that you always like to keep your options open and take detours when you were in graduate school or somehow settled. What would you recommend to actually come up with the courage to leave your safe position and explore other options?
Oh, that's a good question. I know sometimes I say that and it makes me sound really scattered and like I'm changing my job like every 2 minutes. That is also not true. It's just that, like, for example, and I'll come back to your question. When I finished my PhD, it was the recession of 2001. There were basically no jobs. There were no industry jobs. There were no PhD jobs. It was a really bad time. It's all cyclical though. So I got offered a job. And it was a pretty good job. It was a great job. But when I looked at the job, it was a traditional product job. It was clear I wasn't going to be writing papers. I wasn't going to be doing research. Like, I was going to be building product, which of course is what I do now. So like I have some affinity to product. But I sat and thought about that at that moment. And I said, at this moment in my career, I am not ready to close the door on a research career. I want to keep that open. And so I turned that job down. And so for me, it's like when I have a choice, I do think about what choice am I making, which doors are opening, because a door is always opening when you take something, right? And some doors are getting harder. You can usually reopen any door, but they get harder or easier. So in terms of like, if I'm in a place, like, let's say like tomorrow, I was like, well, maybe I'm ready to be a professor, which is, something I might do before I retire or whatever. Here's what I would do. I would be like, I haven't taught a class in a really long time. you know what, I could volunteer for TEALS, the computer science, like teaching high school kids, right? Or I could go, you know, look up my people at UW and say, hey, would it be okay to come and do some guest lectures? And these are examples of kind of dabbling in the other thing, right? Like there's no cost to my current career to go give a guest lecture somewhere, you know, that's fine with them, you know, whatever. Worst case, I'd have to take a day off. I don't have to take a day off for Microsoft to go give a guest lecture, for example, just so that's clear. So let's say you're in, you know, let's say after undergrad, you go into an industry job and you're like, this is fun. But 2 years later, gosh, maybe I should have gone to grad school. Like we actually have programs that are like, okay, well, let's talk about what that would look like. How could you think about that? What would you do? Or vice versa. You went to grad school and 2 years in, you're like, huh, like maybe that product job would have been great. Here are some things you could do. Again, so ways to dabble, right? So if you're in a very safe place, like go to some talks by someone in the other space, you know, find someone in your network who went down that other path and invite them to coffee, one coffee, just to chat with them because you're thinking and you're exploring. So I often talk to people who are like, oh, you know, we just had someone, actually, she just got her user researcher job at Microsoft. And it was so funny, or I loved it. She posted on LinkedIn, like, this has been a really long journey. Like I was doing this one thing and then I talked to all these people and I decided to go back to school. And now I'm here 5 years later, like in my job for the path that I, you know, decided was the thing. So popping up, look for small steps you can take that will get you more information. Because just because something looks great, you know, sometimes it's hard to know, right? Everything has pros and cons. And then without knowing your specific situation, it's hard to really brainstorm with you, but I bet you have lots of peer mentors who could help you brainstorm like what would be small things that would give you more insight into the other path you're considering.
Thank you so much. That was really helpful.
I'm also making sudden moves, right? Like it's not like I'm going to quit tomorrow and like, I don't know. I admire the people who, you know, whatever, travel the world and all that, like maybe someday. But like, I like to kind of check things out too in soft and safe ways.
No, taking small steps sounds like the absolutely right way to do so, not just go all in without knowing. So I think we have one last question. And it's, how have the first mentors in your life influenced you to this day?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I guess that's a hard question again, because if I look back at my life, I was actually thinking of a mentor the other day that I had in high school, right? So, you know, we probably had mentors all the time. You know, if you think back to your high school career, I'm sure there were teachers who helped you pick a path or wrote your recommendations or all of that. You know, I think at the highest level, they've, you know, having such great mentors made me like super passionate about mentorship and sponsorship, right? Because the sort of pay it forward, like them spending time with me had such a huge impact for me that I would like to pay it forward. And that's probably the biggest thing. The second thing that all of those people did is they showed me a possibility, right? Like I never knew what the life of a computer science professor looked like until I spent that summer understanding Jan's life in Oregon, right? And so, and then the life of the professors at Williams. And so for me, it has always been, I sort of like think through things by meeting people who are doing them and learn from example. And so that's the impact that they've had too. They've shown me possibilities. Not, you know, everyone is unique. So what's my possibility is probably different than your possibility of choice, right? But without being able to see those possibilities, it's hard to know what is even possible or what might be the best fit for me. And again, as you saw, like what was the best fit for me changed over time. So I think that's another thing to realize, like sometimes we feel like we're making decisions that are going to, like, you know, if we go through door A, we can never go back through door B. Yeah, sort of, but not so much. I tried to build a life where I had ways back if I realized like, oh, it changed. Yeah. I hope you're all peer mentoring. Go peer mentor, go peer sponsor.
Well, thank you so much, AJ, for the talk, for the Q&A. I believe I speak for everyone when I say it was truly eye-opening and extremely applicable. So yeah, thank you once again.
Can I say, I want to thank you, Paul. It was so fun to meet you and have you moderate. One last thing, like the way you could make me super happy is go and talk to your friends about the difference between sponsor and mentorship. Because I think, like many of us, like I didn't realize it until someone told me, right? And so you can pay it forward by go tell a couple people, oh yeah, sponsor, mentor. Now I'm thinking about them in this way. And that would be the biggest thank you that you could give to me.
I will for sure.
Yes, well, all of you should, but yes, now I've got Paul on the hook. Yay. Cool. And think about it for yourself. So, all right, take care. Have a great day.
Thank you. Thank you very much. You too.
All right, bye.